stream. Welcome to the Random Monday live stream. Hope everybody is doing well, and I've got some things I need to talk about today. And if you guys are not tuned in, I completely understand, because a lot of you guys are dealing with load shedding right now and rolling blackouts thanks to ESCOM's ineptness. And I'm going to go ahead and get this link copied and let people know that I'm streaming. I didn't know if I was going to be able to stream today or not, but I'm going to be able to do so for a little while. So go ahead and get this link copied if you guys want to check it out. And just hang on one second. Okay, two people have tuned in. Thank you guys very much. Okay. January 17th was the anniversary, 2021 was the 50th anniversary of Patrice Lumumba being assassinated. And I'm sorry, the 60th anniversary. It was the 60th anniversary of Patrice Lumumba being assassinated. But let me talk about who Patrice Lumumba really was, okay? He was not a hero. He was not a leader. He was a good leader. He was actually a dictator. Excuse the weird hairdo right there, but the Katanga region in the southern part of the Congo, he would not grant the independence to, and the Katanga region had had a completely different culture than the rest of Congo, a completely different way of lifestyle, and the Congo is just too big of a country for one leader to manage, but he wouldn't grant them their independence. And what he actually did was he sent an airborne unit, paratroopers, as well as ground troopers, to a village he thought was in the Katanga, but it was actually in a very pro-Lumumba village. But it's not pro-Lumumba to this day, because the soldiers mistook that for a Katanga rebel village, and they raped a lot of the women, they killed a lot of the children, and they tortured a lot of the women and children while the men were tied up and forced to watch. And that is a sick and sadistic situation, and that actually did happen. And on the eve of when Belgium granted the Congo their independence, yes, Belgium didn't admit a lot of their atrocities, and Belgium really apologized for what was going on, and that should have not happened. And all Belgium did to the Congo, that should have not happened, by the way. I mean, it shouldn't have. But nevertheless, Joseph Kasavubu gradually and casually mentioned all the stuff that Belgium did to the Congo, but Lumumba just went into a tirade on it, and he swore a lot at them, he cussed them, and it wasn't the wisest thing, because before that, Belgium promised the Congo to help develop their economy and send a lot of low interest or no interest loans to the Congo to help develop their infrastructure and help develop their economy even after independence. But after Lumumba just went on a tirade about all Belgium did, Belgium said, no, we're pulling your aid. And while Lumumba should have not been assassinated by Katanga rebels and Belgian mercenaries with the American CIA knowing about it, there is question if they were involved or not, but they definitely knew about the plot. They should have not poured his body in acid, and the only thing remaining of his body had been teeth, and the Belgian government has offered to return teeth to the Democratic Republic of Congo, as they should. But he should have had to stand trial for all the stuff and all the crap that he did, all the crap that he pulled. And I'm going to get the chat started up, because the SABC did report this about Patrice Lumumba, and they kind of glorified him as a hero and as a liberator, which I firmly believe that he was not. I believe he was one of the more arrogant leaders that Africa has ever had. But so how have you guys been handling the load shedding? You guys been able to get power? You guys been able to get power? You guys are able to get this stream. Rolling blackouts are largely thanks due to ESCOM, and I believe that there are only two solutions to the ESCOM situation: either privatize ESCOM entirely, or keep ESCOM the way it is, but allow other private electric companies to open up and compete against ESCOM. And that's the only way you're going to improve ESCOM's efficiency. ESCOM CEOs forever have been embezzling money. They've not tried to improve the situation that ESCOM has. I mean, ESCOM basically has a monopoly over the nuclear power and over the electricity in South Africa, but then there are still rolling blackouts that happen with ESCOM, and it's just a sick, sad situation. But you guys hadn't missed anything. If you guys are facing rolling blackouts, the SABC, like I said, did a segment dedicated to Patrice Lumumba, and they interviewed a guy who was basically a communist, but talked about a lot of what Patrice Lumumba did. They glorified Laurent Kabila. Laurent Kabila was a leader of the Democratic Republic of Congo up until about 2001. And while the SABC did mention that he was a dictator, the guy, because of the Civil War, about 1 million Congolese residents were displaced, and a lot of political opponents disappeared under Laurent Kabila. Human Rights Watch condemned his dictatorial regime, and that is why Laurent Kabila was assassinated by one of his bodyguards. So, like I said, a lot of you guys probably are not going to be able to tune in due to rolling blackouts, but I'm going to go about 24 minutes if you guys are able to tune in. And please keep Ronaldo Host in your prayers. He's out there doing a lot of hard work right now in the midst of the COVID crisis. There was a key pipeline in Nelson Mandela Bay that has burst, and they're trying to get the thing fixed where the people of Port Elizabeth and Nelson Mandela Bay will have running water, and they'll have, they won't have infected, dirty water. So please keep Ronaldo Host and all the ward counselors in that area and all the government officials in that area in your thoughts and prayers. So let's get the chat started up. What's going on with you guys? How's everything going? You guys doing all right? What do you guys want to talk about? Asking you guys, what do you guys want to talk about? And all right, and like I said, a lot of you guys, I've talked to some of you guys earlier today. The load shedding right now, a lot of people are having trouble getting signals. The load shedding's affected the 5G towers as well. The rolling blackouts is probably why people are not going to be able to tune in, but some people do have backup generators and backup batteries, so you guys may be able to see the stream, and this may go for Chris White if he does streams later today. I'm not sure how many viewers from South Africa he's going to have because of all the load shedding that's going on. Plus, I'm doing my live stream a little bit earlier than today, so a lot of you guys are probably still at work. All right, today in America is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and I support Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I thought he was a good man. I thought he helped make America better, led to an integration of America, and he did it in the most peaceful way possible. And he led the Southern Christian Leadership Conference throughout the South, and he did the March to Washington in 1963. However, Martin Luther King Jr. was human just like anybody else, and because of him, in 1964, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was enacted, which ended discrimination and segregation in restaurants, in all public places. The Montgomery bus boycott happened a year before that, when he led a boycott of Montgomery buses after Rosa Parks was denied a seat in the front of the bus and was forced to go to the back of the bus. Well, the Montgomery bus boycott worked. It lasted 381 days, and the buses became integrated. And then a year later, in 1964, all public places became integrated through the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Now, here's what people don't tell you. Barry Goldwater, the Republican candidate, opposed it. President Lyndon Johnson, the Democratic candidate, supported it. But 84% of Republicans, compared to 69% of Democrats, voted for the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And Barry Goldwater, before the Civil Rights Act of 1964, had a perfect civil rights record. Because there's not that many African Americans in Arizona, he led the Arizona NAACP for a while. The reason he opposed the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is because he thought, because a lot of these public places like restaurants and movie theaters and stuff were private businesses, he thought that ended private discrimination and interfered with people's civil liberties. But Goldwater himself, I think that was a foolish move on Goldwater's part, but Goldwater himself was not a racist. Um, but then Robert Byrd, who was a Democratic senator from West Virginia and an ex-Klansman, he led a filibuster to try to oppose the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Well, Martin Luther King also was a big reason why the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was passed for African Americans to have the right to vote, especially down south. 2 and 4, African Americans were given the right to vote in, I believe, 1868 with the 14th Amendment, but it largely wasn't enforced until the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was passed. However, like anybody else, Martin Luther King had his faults. He was not a communist. That has never been proven. The FBI tapped his phones. They investigated his organization. No proof linking him to communism at all. The only thing is that that Martin Luther King did have communists in his organization, and he wouldn't kick them out, and he refused to kick them out, even though he didn't agree with what they were doing. If you read his personal writings, he says that communism was inherently evil, and inherently disgraceful. But Dr. Martin Luther King did the bare minimum to provide for his kids and his family. At least he didn't have a will when he died. He didn't have a will. And to this day, the brothers and sisters, his kids, are at each other's throat over the will and constantly suing each other back and forth. He didn't provide for his kids like he should have. Now, with that being said, a lot of the money that he made, he didn't use for his personal use. He didn't use for cars. He didn't use for to get Bentleys or Beamers or have a luxurious lifestyle. The money went to the civil rights organizations. But the old saying, charity begins at home. And then also, Martin Luther King was on the road all the time, and he got death threats from white people because of what he was doing, and he also got death threats from more militant blacks. Malcolm X disagreed with Dr. Martin Luther King for the longest time because he thought King wasn't militant enough, and he was getting death threats from people who wanted to take a more militant approach. Of his own people that wanted to take a more militant approach. So, I mean, he was just stressed all the time, but he had 2 mistresses. His partner, or his junior minister, Ralph Abernathy, testified to that. And that the FBI did tap his phones and find out a lot of things about him. And yes, he did have mistresses. He was, unfortunately, he was a womanizer. That doesn't negate what he did for the civil rights movement, and it also doesn't negate that he was a Christian. He messed up just like anybody else, and that's what happened. I understand, like I said, a lot of you guys are just struggling with load shedding right now, so props to anybody who has tuned in. Some of you guys were able to work today, but a lot of you guys had probably not getting the signal that you guys need, unfortunately. All right, because we've had 2 viewers, a little bit 3 viewers, but right now we have 1 viewer. If the 1 viewer is not going to participate in the chat, then I'm gonna probably go about 2 or 3 more minutes, and then I may try to come back in another hour if anybody is off work in another hour or so. We'll see. But yeah, so that's what's going on right now. The post office is not delivering mail today. The banks are not open. We have the holiday Martin Luther King Day right now. Thanks to the 1 like out there. Got 1 like, and then 2 people listening. Props to both you guys. Oh, speaking of, I have 900 subscribers now. I'm now at 900 subscribers. 100 away from 1,000. And if you guys know anybody that would would like my content, please tell them to subscribe. And if you guys like my content but haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm really close right now. I'm really looking forward to getting 1,000 subscribers as soon as possible. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for being here, and try to start chat. What were your thoughts of Patrice Lumumba? Did you guys think he was a good Pan-African leader? Did you guys think he was a dictator? What do you guys think? I will say this: I do recommend the film Siege of Jadotville, which is on Netflix. It's a Netflix original, And that is back when the UN forces picked people from India and Ireland to do peacekeeping in the Congo. And after Patrice Lumumba was assassinated, the UN took a 180 approach and backed Lumumba over the Katanga rebels, and which I firmly believe was a big mistake. But the Irish soldiers were just following orders, and the Irish soldiers held off the Katanga rebels as long as they possibly could have, and not one Irish soldier died in that conflict with the Katanga rebels. Now, their position was eventually overrun, and they had to surrender, and they were in captivity for about a month. And then the Irish government, because them and the UN had screwed up so bad, they wanted a hush hush of the situation, and the soldiers were basically the scapegoats, and they were condemned for being cowards, for not following orders, which was not the case, by the way. But they were called the Jacks of Jaddotville for the longest time. But this movie is very historically accurate, and talks about how heroic of a stand the soldiers made. And I recommend that you guys do check out the film Siege of Jaddotville if you guys have not seen that yet. It's one of the better movies about African history that I've ever seen, and it does show the bravery of the Irish soldiers. And I recommend that you guys do check it out. All right. Thanks for the one like. Thanks for the people who have tuned in spite of all the load shedding that SCOM is doing right now. I'll be back. I'll try to be back in an hour. Not sure, but hope everybody's doing well. Take care. God bless, and bye bye. Bye bye.